When we first start thinking of putting together an animation project, we've got to think about how much time we're going to need for that animation to take place. The slide duration is what I'm referring to here. When we start, we may not have a good idea of how much time we want, but if we stop and think things through, I've found that I can usually get to more or less the right slide time straight away, certainly close enough for a fine tune at the end to put things right. Now, when I talk about planning my animation, it's just a piece of paper and a pencil and a rough idea. It's nothing complicated, it's not going to need a calculator. Just think through what we're going to do, and generally we can arrive at the right figure. We're going to do that in Photoshop because I can create a blank page and I can use that as a piece of paper and record what I'm about to do. But before I do that, let me just give you an idea of what we're going to produce in our next video. I'll press play here and we'll just watch this play in the mini player. You can see we've got a background appearing on screen. We've then got 4 images appearing over the top, which we want on screen for a set number of seconds, and then as you can see they turn round to reveal 4 more images, and I'll explain the significance of those blank 1, 2, 3, 4 images a little bit later. So here I am in Photoshop with my pencil and paper, and all I've done here is replicated the objects and animation screen of Pictures-to-Exe. So this first little section here, we normally see by default a 2-second fade, and we see a 2-second fade at the other end. So what we can do here is to think through and time the animation we wish to make. And that bit of planning is likely to give us our slide time, which we need to find out. So we've got 2 seconds when the background image fades on screen. What do we want to happen then? Well, I think the background needs to sit there with nothing happening for at least 2 seconds, otherwise things tend to look rushed. You get used to these timings after a little while. So between that point and that point, which will take us to 4 seconds, all we've got is the background coming on. At 4 seconds, we need to have a time scale to allow the 4 inset images to appear. Now I reckon about 3 seconds is enough to do that, but we can think these things through and even do them in our head. You can actually count and imagine 1 and 2 and 3, a nice figure for an image, or in our case 4 images, to appear on screen. So the next part of our animation needs to run to the 7-second point. Normally I would give 4 seconds for an image to remain on screen, but that's not set in stone, of course, and here we've got to remember we've got 4 images, so maybe we should err on the safe side. Let's say 5 seconds. We want 5 seconds here, which is going to take us to 12, where we want nothing to happen at all. And then of course from this point we want all 4 images spinning round, and I think 3 seconds will be enough for that. So once again, 3 seconds to the next point takes us to 15, and if we're going to spin 4 images round to view them, and we decided to give the other 4 5 seconds, then we've really got to give these much the same. So already we're up to 20 seconds. Now let's just have a little recap, make sure we've got this right. So from this point to this point we've got the fade on screen, fade on, of the background image. Between 2 seconds and 4 seconds we want nothing at all. At this point all 4 images should be transparent, we shouldn't be able to see them, and in that 3 seconds we need the transparency to come fully on screen so we see the 4 images for the first time at that point. Between the next 2 we want nothing to happen at all, we just want to view them, but then we want our 3D rotation between these 3-second points, and then of course another 5 seconds to view the images. Okay, let's finish off our plan. So if we've got the final 4 images on screen for 5 seconds, then I think rather than have them fade off in 3 seconds as we had them coming on, I think we can trim that to 2. So at this point we're at the 22-second point. We could leave another 2 seconds to enable the background to be viewed, and then 2 seconds for it to fade off. So we could be around 24 or even 26 seconds, but let's just plumb for 24 seconds. So that little bit of a plan we've just made has determined more or less the slide time we're going to require. We may have to fine tune it at the end, but that's going to be a small thing to do. So of course you would have this piece of paper on the bench alongside of you. I've just saved it just in case I need to refer to it. But now I need to think about making those blanks, those white oblongs that you see marked 1, 2, 3, 4. The 3D animation I'm going to make is going to be based on a 16:9 aspect ratio. So what I'm going to do here is to make my blank that size. I'm going to go to File, New in Photoshop, and I should have one here. There it is. Look, 1920 1080 in my recent items. If I just double click, what I want here is white, so I've got white as my background color, so Control Backspace will flood it with white, but I could have selected white from the controls when I created the canvas. What I want to do here is just save this into the folder where I'm going to be working. So File, Save As. It's already gone into my 3D rotate. There you can see the planning we made a little while ago. So I could just make this one our blank page, but we're going to number them in a moment. And I'm saving this as a JPEG, and I'm saving this at level 6. Remember, these are just for a guide. We're not going to end up using these. Now you can make 4 copies of these, but here's an easier way. If we go into Bridge, for example, and I navigate to the place I'm working, now that's the 3D rotate, so there's the little square I've just made. If I hit Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, I only want 4 of these, but I've got one up my sleeve in case I change my mind, save me having to make any more. So what I want really is to open up 4 of these on into the Photoshop screen. I think I've already got one there, but I'll open up 4 by highlighting them all and hitting the Enter key. I'm going to pick up black and my brush, and I'm going to give these a number. I'm going to shut that one down and say yes, save it. You can see what I'm doing here. Don't need any finesse here, we just need to be able to see that number. Now we can go back into Bridge. I'm going to rename them here. You could have saved them and give them the name as you went along. And in fact, I want them round this way. It's not essential of course, but highlighting all 4 of those, I'm going to batch rename them. Now this is quite a useful thing to know as an AV enthusiast, because here we're only using 4 images, but this I've used quite often. Right click once you've selected them all, go to batch rename, and we have a number of different options. We can apply text and all of these options here, but in actual fact let's get rid of them, because all we need is a sequence number starting with 1, and we can choose either 2 digits or my favourite is 3, no real reason for that, just a personal choice. Hit rename, there's the 4 images that we've got ready for our animation, and we've got them nicely labelled 1, 2, 3, 4. And as I said, the reason for these will become a bit more evident in the next video.